My name is Nicole Sanchez. I'm the VP of Social Impact at GitHub. I'm so happy to be in one of my favorite cities in the world, Amsterdam. I love you, Amsterdam. Those of you who are from here, I'm from San Francisco, so, I mean, they're neck and neck, but Amsterdam, I love you. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for staying. I am this person here, and I'm here to tell you today, to bring you the good news that as much as we care about code at GitHub, we care even more about what that code does. My team's job as social impact is to do as much work as we can to leverage the code people like you write, the products people like you develop, to bring about massive change in the world, to solve big issues that many of us live with. So I thought I'd start with a quote from a native son here, Erasmus. I learned through my research that Erasmus means a lot of things to people in the Netherlands, including the name of a college, including the name of a fellowship and a scholarship. But this is a favorite quote of mine. There are some people who live in a dream world, and there are some who face reality. And then there are those who turn one into the other. This is what we want you and others not in this room to use GitHub for. We want you to take a dream, place it inside reality, and solve really big problems. Because we are a very considerable number of people who are going to bring about massive change in the world. The tech field is integral in ensuring that people around the world have things like access to clean water, access to food, access to education, shelter. If you think about what imagination can do for people, do you think Erasmus, sitting 75 kilometers away from here 500 years ago, might have thought of the satellite? Maybe. Maybe he looked at the moon and said, someday humans are going to put something up there that does something useful. And what we've done with satellites is extraordinary, simply in terms of communication. It didn't come for another 500 years after he wrote that quote, but when you really consider the satellite and our theme of today, how many dreamers plus how many doers had to come together to get that thing launched? The answer was a lot. Gone are the days of the single genius sitting in their lab, sitting in their study, inventing 1,700 things on their own. It is going to take all of us contributing a little bit over a long period of time to do the things that we know the world needs. The world needs a lot, that's not a secret. And when you look at this heat map of where our most recent users have signed up in the last 12 months, and there's us, where we are right now, up in the top left corner, nobody has cornered the market on GitHub developers. We are all over the world. We are in places that are represented in this room, and we are in places that are not represented in this room. When you look at what's happening in Brazil, look at that heat map for Brazil. Any Brazilians in the room? All right. More than just football going on there. More than just a good party and the Olympics going on there. Look at how much software is being developed by people in Brazil. And when we think about emerging markets, and when we think about the kinds of challenges people in the favelas are living with in Brazil, if we can get the power of technology into their hands, imagine the kinds of solutions they're going to come up with using open source methodology. What technology has done for the last 2 generations is worked near the top of Maslow's hierarchy of need. This is a well-worn framework for how we look at how humans thrive in the world. And at the bottom are the basic needs, the physiological needs: water, food, warmth, safety, security, health. But we have harnessed technology for 2 generations towards the top of Maslow's hierarchy. You know what we looked for with technology? Dates. We looked for ways to meet other people, which is interesting. But at a certain point, swiping left and swiping right gets a little boring. We looked for ways to have food delivered to our door. Cool. I think we figured that one out. We've looked for ways to share kitten photos. We can share a kitten photo pretty quickly anywhere in the world. You know what we haven't done? A whole bunch of stuff that billions of people are living with at the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy. And what GitHub would like to bring about is a massive shift in the kinds of products we're developing using open source methodology towards the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy. So when you think about what your company or your organization is doing today, what are the hardest problems your company is trying to solve? Think about that for a second. Think about your company, or think about your organization. What's the hardest problem you're trying to solve? Now I want you to think about what's the hardest problem? Oh, sorry about that. My animations. What's the hardest problem? What are the hardest problems society is trying to solve? Right? Curing cancer. How'd you know? How about curing cancer? Stole my punchline. Damn it. How about curing cancer? Cancer is something that has affected every single person in this room. There is not a single one of us who has not lost a loved one, lived with, survived, are living with now cancer. Nobody is immune to this. And so the people I'd like to introduce you to first are people who are using GitHub and other tools like it to try and bring about a cure to cancer.
I think the people who are going to cure cancer are going to be the people who have computational skills. If people have programming skills that can jump on and be a part of this, and that's what we want. We want to get everyone involved. We really think that the solution to unlocking cancer is really going to be from all of us.
The Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center is a research center in Seattle that specializes in understanding cancer and coming up with new cures that we can use for patients with diseases that are uncurable.
Our goal is to both research the cancer biology, but also treat patients. So we're part of a consortium that includes hospitals, but it also includes a large number of researchers.
Historically, when people were trying to decide what a cancer type was, they would look under a microscope, and because of the way things looked, they would give it a name. But recently, we've had the ability to sequence huge amounts of DNA, and so all of a sudden there's a whole lot more sort of digital data that completely describes a tumor in a much better way than simply the way a microscope would. This is both a good thing and a bad thing. It poses a problem in that the amount of data for any given person is enormous. And all that information has to be compiled together in some giant database and then manipulated and visualized. And so we were able to get a team together to attack this problem. And we've built some of these tools that we're pretty happy with.
Oncoscape is an open source web application where we take a cancer patient's information and we easily visualize it for doctors and scientists to understand what's going on in the patient's disease. The fields right now, there's cancer biologists, so the people who are studying cancer, and then there's the computational people. And so we wanted a tool that really could speak to both groups, and then at that same time is how can we make them work together.
My work includes dry lab, computational side, plus the wet lab, which means processing human tissues. So I work on both sides. So the tissue is freezed. I'll just put it on the dry ice and then switch to my thermal glove. A lot of times we only look at data as a computer scientist, but you don't know how the data were generated. And I have this opportunity to look at the tissue, and when the data doesn't make sense, then you go back to the specimen. Every aspect matters to generate good quality data. There's a lot of advantages to be able to work on both sides.
Well, I've been in this field for 20 years. I've learned more about the disease that I particularly am interested in, which is brain cancer, with simply this visualization tool, and I've learned, over many of the previous years, because I'm not necessarily looking at only what the street light, is illuminating. If you look at all the DNA, it's like turning the lights on in the entire room and you see everything. And you see it all at once, and you can see the things that you know exist, but then there's all this other stuff that you didn't even know to look for, but it's sitting right in front of you.
So we wanted Oncoscape to be open source because our goal from the beginning has really been about collaboration. This year we got this idea because someone contacted us whose father had lung cancer, but he really didn't have a way to help except for programming. And it really gave us this idea that coders out there could really help us. And so we thought this would be a great thing to put on GitHub, and we felt like we could still give credit to people and use their name and really celebrate them for helping us in this fight against cancer.
You don't have to be an expert in biology or computational biology. We want to allow people to be an expert in their own field. And so we've created all these help wanted tasks of things that we're not experts at, that you might be an expert at. And we want our GitHub repository to be a place where people can come to and contribute their own knowledge, their own software, and their own efforts.
I know just by far how much I've been learning from the GitHub community. I've been checking out a lot of repositories, just looking at how they code. We cannot work as competitors anymore in the cancer research because people die. So we really need to work together with different cancer centers, with different fields, with people from different expertise.
It's a very exciting time if these tools can be really brought to the level that just any old person could do this, and then, it sort of opens up science and cancer research to everybody, which is actually really exciting.
I don't know. I mean, cancer will be solved on a computer. We want people to join us in making a tool that really all of us can benefit from.
Back one. Hi, everybody. I'm Lisa McFerrin. This is Desert Horse Grant. And we are here to talk about our desire to work in this field. And this field being the integration of genomic data and clinical data to help researchers and scientists through software to be able to explore the landscape of what it means to treat patients and make cancer research better. What does it mean to have a new patient walk in the door and understand what their tumor looks like, how patients we've seen before have been treated, and determine what it makes to bring about better outcomes? What can make people live in the long-term survivor group rather than the short-term survivor group? And we are not the only ones working in this field, nor do we want to be the only ones. We are working with people that bring together clinical data, molecular data, and build these databases that allow this integration to happen. But we need more than just the data. It's also about the methods. It's also about the people. And so what is needed here, and what Oncoscape is striving to offer, is a platform that allows people to integrate their methods, integrate their data through a plug-and-play nature using open source tools, so something that you may be familiar with. That way, whatever expertise you have, you can come in and you don't have to know molecular genetics or medicine at all. You may know how to better optimize a JavaScript call. So we want you to be able to work with our system, help develop our API, help develop a user interface that researchers and clinicians are actively using and interested in looking further into so that they can better understand cancer research and patient care. We've also developed a continuous integration pipeline. That way we can use our GitHub, and whatever developers are going to contribute to our repository, then we can merge your pull request. It will follow through the continuous integration, and then be able to deploy to our development site so that people are actively looking at what you can have an impact in working on cancer research.
Hi, as she said, I'm Desert Horse Grant. I've been in cancer research at a nonprofit for 16 years. 13 of them was at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center in New York City, which is ranked #1 in the world, and it was an amazing place to grow up. But I took a team of 11 and moved to Seattle, Washington, specifically for the goal of trying to bring in more in computer science people with computational skills in with our scientific programs. So we moved to Seattle. We were lucky enough to go to the Microsoft faculty retreat and met someone from GitHub, someone named Phil Hack, and it was right at a perfect time that we really were exploring what we could do with coders. And as you saw in the video, there was a programmer who reached out to us whose dad has stage 4 lung cancer and has since passed away from the disease. And when he saw the video that GitHub made for us to try to create a community of coders, he was really touched by it, and he said that it was really the silver lining of sharing the experience with us, that we want to basically say, as Nicole said, all of us have been affected by cancer, but I really believe that people in this room and the people that we're broadcasting out to, us in the field, we need help, and we need help from people with programming skills, visualization skills, people who can debug. And so what we do, our team, is we meet with all the cancer biologists and the oncologists, and so we have lung cancer people and brain cancer people, and they basically say what they need to make their research go faster. And they're very, very specific, and it's all has to do with coding issues and with merging large, huge data sets of our human genome and the cancer genome. And so if you were willing to, instead of the idea of crowd fundraising where everyone gives a little bit of dollars, if people are willing to donate an hour here and there to our cause, we want to be able to honor all of you and celebrate you and use your names. But also, we really think that we need you. Our field in our nonprofit space in cancer research just doesn't have all of you, and we've tried to make a system where you don't need to know the biology of the disease. You just need to have the skill that you have. So this is really us trying to forage into this space and ask for people to join our community, because all of us think that it's going too slow. And our cancer center invented the bone marrow transplant that's used all over the world, Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center. And right now, we're really doing pioneering work in immunotherapy, which is basically having your own immune system attack the cells. And we need all of the data behind it for us to make these breakthroughs. So I really am really happy that GitHub has selected us to be here today. And I want to thank all of you in the coder community for going into this path that I think is just making leaps and bounds for us as human beings. And hopefully it will start to show in the sciences. So please log on to our site if you can, and please be in touch with us. Thank you so much.
Great job. So, no big deal, curing cancer, as one does. I got to have dinner with these ladies last night, and Dr. Judy from Openmrs. Everybody's got a PhD or an MD, not me. And I'm thinking, what do I do to contribute to this? Well, what I do is help set up a platform for geniuses like this to come onto our site and actually take on the biggest problems we are facing in the world. That's my contribution. It's small, but it's something. Right? I'm not going to be an MD, but I have a contribution to make to helping the research around curing cancer. I want to be part of that. Just as important as what we work on, we are really focused on who is working on these things. So when you think about who will solve the hardest problems in your company, ask yourself the same question again about who will solve the hardest problems in society. And as I joked earlier, we've got all the dating apps we need, we've got food delivery, we've got kitten photo sharing, we've got a whole lot of things. But what happens is entrepreneurs tend to, quote unquote, scratch their own itch. And they want to solve the problems that they are faced with in the world. When we open up the doors and then the floodgates to the people who have access to these tools, to collaborate, to create, to write code, to solve problems. The kinds of problems we are going to be able to solve are limitless. And what has happened in technology, it's difficult to argue with, is that we have systematically excluded certain sets of people from participation. It could be as simple as, I don't know how to access the internet in some part of the world, or as complicated as, I have been to school, I am a good computer scientist, and yet no one will hire me. I've been working on issues of diversity in tech for over 20 years. Believe it or not, it's not the hot button issue that just popped up over the last 24 months. There's a group of people who've been working on it for a long time, and we're finally talking about how to truly open the doors wide to the folks who have never had access to the laptops, to the knowledge, to the connectivity, to the chat rooms, to the information, so that they can bring their talent, skill, and genius to bear on the problems they are facing. My next guest is a board member for an organization called Code to Inspire, that is making sure that girls in Afghanistan have access to this kind of knowledge. And those of us here in Europe right now understand that when folks are from conflict zones, what happens is they migrate. Europe is facing a real issue right now around refugees and where they're going to live. They're fleeing real violence. The ideal solution would be for folks to be able to stay home and learn and be safe and get the education they need to prevent the next conflict from happening. So I'm really, really excited to introduce you to Elizabeth McCauley, who's a board member for Code to Inspire, who's going to tell you a little bit about what they work on. Elizabeth.
Well, it's truly a privilege to be here today. I just want to thank GitHub for having us here. And GitHub basically made a very generous donation to our organization when we were first getting started. And we wouldn't be where we're at today if it wasn't for GitHub. So basically, Code to Inspire is the first girls coding school in Afghanistan. And our founder, Feresh Shafuro, has a background in seeing what it's like to live in a country like Afghanistan and feel excluded. Feresh grew up as an Afghan refugee in Iran. And when she returned to Afghanistan, this was after the fall of the Taliban, and basically it was kind of starting from ground zero for women. There's been a lot of progress, but she's seeing different issues where women can go to school now, they can go to university, but they're just not as inspired to do things further. They don't have the ability to dream as much. I think most women in this room here, we can dream about being a computer programmer, starting our own company, and we can definitely do that. But for girls in Afghanistan, that's not really a reality. But we're choosing to turn the tide for that. So Code to Inspire is a 501c3 organization. We're based in the US, and we just recently opened up our first coding school in Afghanistan in Herat. So I'm going to give a very quick overview of who we are and ways to get involved. So basically, we were founded in January of 2015. I got connected to Feresh, our founder, and I started to realize that we can do so much more with technology. So, you know, we're building apps now, but why not get girls in these countries involved in technology so they can fix societal problems? So basically, we're looking at 3 key issues: equality, empowerment, and change. So equality, there are definitely social, cultural issues in Afghanistan right now where girls don't feel as comfortable or safe to get educated. We're focusing on empowerment as well. So we're realizing if we build up skill sets for these girls to be financially independent and be empowered with technology, they can make an impact in their community. And we're also focusing on change. One thing that's really important to us is grassroots level. So pretty much with these girls, you know, they're taking a risk going to a coding school. We want to make it a safe space. We also want to loop in their families and all, and then demonstrate that change so then they can make an impact in their country and in turn contribute back to the Afghan economy. So there definitely is a key problem. There's a gap here. Basically, only 16% of females in Afghanistan make up the labor and workforce, and that's a lot lower than other countries around the world. There's also an issue in secondary and higher education, so it's a 2-to-1 ratio male to female. And why is this the case? There are social and cultural issues where it's just not as common for females to get educated beyond just primary and secondary education. Also, there's risk, safety-wise. Some families don't want their girls to have that extra education, and so we've hoped to come up with a solution. So basically, with Code to Inspire, we, in November of this past year already, launched our first coding school in Herat, Afghanistan. So Herat is basically the tech capital of Afghanistan. And with this school, we're starting out with a group of 30 to 50 students, and they come, it's like an after-school program. It's high school, and we have a few college students, and we're teaching them some basic computer skills with the then hope that they'll be able to study further, get freelance work, and contribute back to the Afghan economy, but have that sense that they can do something so much more. So what we do, we really focus on having a scalable impact, again, looping in the community, and then focusing on change. And so scalable, this is our first coding school, but we're looking to expand. So having kind of a standard. And one of the most important things, again, is understanding culture over there, making it a safe environment for these girls, but then empowering them through that. Community impact, it's been really phenomenal, first of all, to see since just this past November, the progress that these students have made. They're already building websites, and then that their families are coming back to us and thanking us for this program, and they feel safe sending their girls there. And then again, change at the grassroots level, so getting the conversation started in a safe way, and soon having these girls have a greater impact across the country of Afghanistan and then that full region. So we do have a pretty ambitious plan in terms of our structure, but again, we have high school program and then also a university level track where they're learning basic skills for high school like HTML, CSS, also some social media skills, more advanced for the college level track. And our hope then again is for these girls to learn those basic skills, website development, take it a step further, eventually get freelance work, which they can do internationally from the comfort of their homes in Afghanistan or a computer lab. And then from there, perhaps someday have them start their own companies and their own startups. So it's pretty neat to see what a few courses and skill sets in computer technology can do for these girls. Most of them, their trajectory would be carpet making, homemaking, working in a market, but now they can have a global career and global impact, and in turn even have their own financial resource. So you might ask, why now? Why the use case? As I mentioned, after the fall of the Taliban, there has been tremendous growth in education for girls and further opportunities, but we're still not fully there yet. A lot of girls, you can see less than 50% statistic there, less than 50% of women really kind of think about that further advancement in computer science or having that computer literacy. But we want to give these girls that chance to dream big and have a notable impact. In terms of next steps, one of my favorite things is seeing the work of these girls. So we actually had our first Code Fest. It was a competition where the girls in our program each built in teams websites with skills they learned. And they were pretty good for a few months in. I'd have to say better than myself in terms of what I could do coding-wise. And the next step, well, when back through those websites, a lot of them had themes throughout. So they did a theme of female empowerment and women empowerment in Afghanistan. So they're already using their skill sets to transition and sharing a message about empowerment and hope for women in their country. The next step is getting them to build mobile applications to help empower women and deal with social issues. So it's so amazing to see how we, with your help, can empower these girls through computer science and technology education, and they can in turn build applications to make a difference in their country with issues they're seeing that are very prevalent. So I'm very excited about this, and I really hope that you guys will continue on this message that we're sharing here today. But there are different ways in which you can get involved. We are a nonprofit organization. We do accept donations. We're grateful for anyone's support. This program is free for girls. We recognize that they come from families and homes that would not be able to provide tuition payments. So we cover their tuition payment. We have mentors from the local university we pay a stipend to teach and educate. We need things like donations of laptops, equipment, and so donations, but also individuals who are wanting to get involved. One thing we're looking for are public and private partnerships. So we've already started to form those, but if you have a startup, if you have a company, and you're looking to work alongside some girls who you might want to contribute to your skill set or whatnot, or if you have projects that they can help out with, I mean, that's our end goal. And then obviously, getting the word out, spreading the word. One of our passions is sharing that technology is growing in countries like Afghanistan. Some people might look at Afghanistan and think, oh, this couldn't be happening over there, but it is. So getting that word out, getting that message out that it can happen in any country. And finally, we're also open to new advisors. So definitely come see me if you're interested in doing more. But again, if you can help, if you have an organization that would like to partner with a project like this and share the story, it can be awesome. We have team members from a lot of different tech companies, Google, IBM, pretty diverse. And again, we've been supported by some awesome sponsors, so thank you again, GitHub, for your incredible support. We've also been supported by the Malala Fund, Bitfury, Overstock.com donated 20 laptops to our organization, and we were able to get them into Afghanistan, and the girls are using them now. These girls might not have a chance to even, use a laptop. Think of all we take for granted. These are basic things for these girls. And also, we just were a recipient of the Google Rise Award. So really, again, thank you for your time. Please check out code2inspire.org and learn, be inspired, and in turn, inspire others.
Thank you. Good job. All right. Nobody can walk out of here today saying, I don't know how I can possibly contribute to something good, right? Everybody knows at least 2 things you can do. Fred Hutch is looking for developers to help them think through some of the ways that their workflow is or isn't working. Code to Inspire is looking for donors and also partners and advisors. Those are just 2. If you go onto GitHub's main page and you look on showcases, there's something called the Social Impact Showcase. We have 10 projects like this that need people to get involved. It's everything from crowdsourcing gender-neutral bathrooms on a map to 3D printing medical equipment in conflict zones. Really fascinating stuff that is completely open source, so the expertise you have can be brought to bear on that. Everybody here is working on something interesting. I joke about dating apps and food and that kind of thing. Those are interesting problems to solve. But if we are in this room and we found the day to be here at a conference, I challenge each of us to leave here and think about what you can do with 1 hour a week, $10 a week. Some kind of contribution that you can make to people who are working in the same workflow as you on very different outcomes, right? And as we do this as a field, we can start pushing down towards the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy of need. When you think about 1 billion people living without access to clean water, 1 billion people living on less than $1 a day, that's not nothing. And we have, for the first time in human history, the ability to connect with anyone, anywhere, if they have the right equipment in their hands. Talent and creativity is evenly distributed throughout the world. I'm going to say that again. Talent and creativity is evenly distributed throughout the world, but opportunity and access is not. This is the next frontier of challenges for us as a community, not just open source, but tech overall. This is the problem together we have to solve, and we at GitHub are putting a lot of resources into doing this and into encouraging you to do the same. Elizabeth, Lisa, and Desert are going to be standing over here afterwards. I will be here. There are also GitHub employees throughout the room who think about this a lot. We've got people from the social impact team. You can recognize GitHub staff members by the staff t-shirts, okay? We've got folks who think hard about how can you bring new contributors onto your project. Mike McQuaid sitting up here in the front. Raise your hand, Mike. Brandon Keepers, are you still here somewhere? Beekeepers is in the back. Jessica Lord, are you here somewhere? You were here, you were on a panel. These are people who've put a lot of thought into how to make open source more accessible to people who are just starting out. That is, if you do nothing else, but think about how you can bring newbies onto your projects, that is a great place to start. I saw a tweet recently where somebody said, hey, I'm opening a pull request, and I'm only accepting comments and working with someone to merge this pull request who's never merged a pull request before. And he tweeted it out. And all of these people who are too scared to get their hands into a pull request popped up on Twitter. Then the next week he said, hey, I'm only looking for pull requests from people who've never opened a pull request before. And hundreds of people started responding. It is that simple act that's going to allow people who currently do not have the access to explore open source the way most of this room does to do that for the first time ever. And when you think about Erasmus, right, sitting in Rotterdam, 75 or so kilometers from here, thinking that the dreamers and the doers at some point come together to make real things happen, what's next? I don't know. Y'all are gonna have to decide. And GitHub has your back in trying to figure that out. We want you to figure this out. on our platform, with our support and our help, we can truly bring about massive social change. Thank you very much for being here. I really appreciate y'all staying till the very, very end. I want to thank my guests for joining me, and I want to thank the social impact team, wherever you are all over the world. You make this work possible. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming to Satellite.